All right, so let's kind of pivot, but stay on the topic of your money, because there's a huge debate/fight going on around Washington, D.C. right now, and it has to do with how your tax dollars are being spent. Because an important thing, I mean, lots of important things are said on CNBC, but this was really important yesterday, and I think you might have missed it, okay? In the 11 o'clock Eastern Time hour, the CEO of Easterly Government Properties said this about government spending on buildings.
Now, there's a fourth lab that's going to be built in Denver, and the government has said that they want to build it and own it themselves. Well, that's great. What we just learned is that for them to construct it is 3.2 times greater than what we could build it for. So we could instantly save the government $80 million just bringing that public-private partnership together.
All right, that was kind of a quick comment from the CEO there, but if you missed it, he said his company could build a building effectively for 1/3 of what the government would spend on the same building. Your tax dollars may be overpaying massively for brick and mortar. That caught my ear, so I posted on basically that comment to Twitter/X, which then got reposted by a guy named Elon Musk, who added, quote, "Wow, your tax dollars are being torched." And because of that retweet, thank you, I guess, over 12 million of you have now read that post, and I've gotten some very colorful comments. Thank you. Let's continue the conversation. Pierre Debbas is the managing partner of real estate law firm Romer Debbas, and we still have MCC on set. Pierre, did I massacre your last name?
You did, but it's all right.
How do you pronounce it?
Debbas.
Wasn't that far off? I Frenched it up. All right, Pierre. Was that crazy, what he said, or do you think it really is 3 times the cost to build the same building?
You know, look, since January 20th, DOGE has done an excellent job of highlighting government waste and excessive spending and probably a lack of accountability on how taxpayers' money has been spent. This is a prime example. I think what he said is spot on, and I'm not surprised in the least bit. We knew real estate would be on the top of the agenda for how to cut back government spending. Let's be honest, the pandemic next month's going to be 5-year anniversary since the inception of the pandemic. Office buildings in D.C. are over 90% vacant. People are still working fully remote. If you ask me, the whole workforce manipulated the working remote, the whole scenario that took place from COVID. It's arguably one of the greatest scams in modern
these are
day,
big.
right?
Okay. Hold on now. You said a lot.
I did. You're not more productive working from home. That's
hold on. First off, we don't know if the DOGE people are doing a good job. We don't even know who they are.
We know who some of them are.
Yeah, I asked the Secretary of Energy about it. He was on the record saying we got their security clearance, but they're working for free. We don't know who these people are, what they're doing in there, poking around. So it's hard. We can't quite say that. We don't know. Maybe they're bad,
What's
evildoers.
interesting to me as well is they're going through line item by line item and finding things like, okay, we sent X amount to Liberia, we did, but you're now talking about real estate.
That's right.
In order to unpack that and what Brian's talking about, they're going to have to know more than just how much was spent on those buildings. It needs to be why was it more than market rate? And we have real estate, people in the government themselves who understand this. Mm-hmm. Is it because of union involvement? What are the reasons why it's more expensive?
There's really only 2 reasons, right? Union involvement and the security concerns. Clearly, the government as a tenant has heightened security concerns as opposed to a private company. But at the end of the day, chances are the government is outsourcing their security needs themselves and paying that separately. So I don't really know of a logical explanation why it could be 3x. And then as a landlord, like as a real estate lawyer, right, we handle commercial leasing. Landlords will look at the quality of a tenant in making a business decision. The government, long-term leases, arguably the most stable tenant in town, they're usually not the ones to get ripped off or have a premium because they're viewed to be high risk. So I think that there's certainly an area of manipulation taking place on this topic.
I just say government workers are not incentivized the way private workers are, right? Mm-hmm. Private sector employees get incentivized by higher pay if they perform well, et cetera. Government workers don't necessarily have those same incentives. They're on a certain structure. They're going to get paid the same no matter what. And so they are less inclined to try to make things move faster, et cetera. So that's going to add to the cost.
Pure lack of efficiency.
Well, okay. So it's not really a debate. I guess we got to be the other side of this. I would say this. To your point, though, okay, and let's leave out the union stuff, separate argument, okay? If the government wants to build a building in a specific way for our taxpayer protection, how do I know that a private firm will do the same thing? I'm trying to justify the added cost. You see what I'm saying?
I don't know. You put out an RFP, a request for proposal. You get a bid. There's a way that this gets done where you can compare various companies that would build it for whatever price, and under whatever, parameters.
Because this guy, Daryl
want.
Crate, who, by the way, I think his brother actually worked in the Trump campaign. I want to make that very clear, the CEO of Easterly Corporation, and they lease out buildings to the federal government. He was praising the cost cuts in that interview, and you can go back and watch it. It's part of the 11 o'clock show, Money Movers. But he was praising it, Michelle, and saying, just give it to us. We'll build it for less.
He was talking his book, for sure.
He was talking his book and his building, okay?
Right.
Selling his services.
So let's be clear on that.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a better, Kelly?
No, I'm up here. What were you going to say?
No, I would say I think that the bidding process has to be revamped. You have to look at the bidding process and how to make it more efficient. Where are we bidding out these contracts? Are there any relation to the government, or is there any conflict of interest that arise between those being contracted out and the government in the situation? And I think you have to expand upon that. In reality, competition is the most important thing in establishing fair pricing, and we have to do a better job of ensuring that more companies are having the ability to bid on these projects.
We'll end it there. I will say this. I was in D.C. on Thursday and Friday of last week, and it was grim. It was very empty. It was almost, now I got a little New York City bias, but it was a little weird.
Haven't they called people back now, though, or is that not
I think they had,
yet?
didn't they have 60 days? They had to by a certain day. I don't know if that's the exact number.
It's only been a few weeks.
But there is a shocking amount of construction happening in D.C. At the same time, a lot of buildings are sitting empty. Mm-hmm. As just an observer, a neutral observer, who, by the way, has a lot of friends who work for the federal government, they're all very good people, hard workers, it's a weird dichotomy. You got this empty building, and across the street, they're building some kind of a new building. Yeah. It's just.
And by the way, just as a coda to all of this, from Jason Furman himself, who had worked in the Obama administration, he did a study of the Biden administration kind of infrastructure bill and found, because that massive spending drove up the cost of a lot of these materials, in real terms, the amount of spending on infrastructure was down 17% and was lower than in any year from 2003 to 2020. So again, part of the problem sometimes when you have a single entity driving all of this is you get these distortions in the market, which I thought was interesting.
Pierre Debbas, thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle?